Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel where I talk about movies, including some little mini-series, and I'm currently in the midst of a Francois Truffaut mini-series, 4 movies from a collection that Kino released earlier in this year in 2023. I've already talked about The Wild Child. Today I want to talk about Small Change. Now, in the French title is actually Pocket Money. And it's widely considered by Truffaut himself that that this is the third of a trilogy of childhood, which begins with his most famous film and his first feature film, 400 Blows, and continued on with The Wild Child. But Small Change is very different than those previous 2 films. It's set in a provincial town in France called Thiers, Thiers. It concerns almost totally children. We see the movie is about the children of this town. We see them in school. This is a year before this is a boys' school. A year before this co-ed education is coming to the school. So there's some apprehension by both the boys and the teachers as to how that's going to work out. So we see them at school, 2 different classes, and we see them at home, we see them at play, and we do see them interacting with their parents from one degree or another. And the film concerns a whole ensemble of children. And these are not actors, they're real children, I was gonna say. Truffaut spent a lot of time finding these particular children, and they seem very natural. Some of the actors, some play the adults, are, I believe, actors. Some as well were townspeople that Truffaut discovered during the filming. So it's a series of sort of vignettes, of sketches. It does sort of center on 2 boys. One is a boy who has no mother. His father is disabled. And he grows very fond of his best friend's mother as he kind of falls in love with her. So that's the one character that we follow more than the others. And the second such character is a boy who is coming from a welfare family, living in some terrible looking shack. He comes in and joins the school at the end of the school year. He looks like he may be an abused child. He sort of lives on the street, lives by his wits. He's a thief. He tries to steal money wherever he can. But all these characters they're all intermingling. We don't know exactly where we're going to go next with the storylines, and so we get very much a sort of a documentary feel, but a documentary feel that really catches the rhythms of life and the rhythms of childhood, of which Truffaut was quite enamored by what happens to children. He came from a sort of neglected childhood and very rough memory, very bad memories Truffaut had of his childhood, in which he felt that he didn't belong to the family that he was biologically connected to, and had to make his way in the world as well. Which you see, the 400 Blows is basically. The Jean-Pierre Léaud character, Antoine Denel, is basically a story of Truffaut's own childhood. Now, Truffaut looks at childhood as with great importance, and he sees children as living in a kind of state of grace. They have resiliency. No matter what happens to them, they can survive. There's the joy of being alive. In fact, the opening credits are played against a group of these children, a large group of these children, as they run from the top. This is a hilly town. They run from the top of the hill down, zigzagging their way down to carrying their school bags, zigzagging, running with great glee and joy as they run to their school. But we also see how these children are dealing with their parents. And again, as I mentioned before, this is a series of vignettes, and Truffaut's view is the adults in the realm of his world, the world of this film. They're basically spectators. The children are the ones that are interesting because they're still learning. They still have things to learn. They have everything to learn. Whereas the adults are now, they're making their money and they're watching these children as they're growing up, their children as they're growing up. Children are still learning. As part of I have a few books on Truffaut, and I came across a quote that Truffaut uses from George Simenon. George Simenon was the novelist who wrote the Maigret police detective novels, but he also wrote a slew of psychological novels. He was very much interested in the psychology of his characters, as well as in the Maigret stories. And Truffaut says, like Simenon, I believe that we are working with all that happens to us between birth and the age of 14. These are the important years of our lives, that we can never really get away from that. That sense of the challenges that life feels, the traumas that we might experience. And some of the critics, I came across quite a few contemporaneous reviews of this film by Truffaut, and he got largely terrific reviews. This film did well in France, and it did well here in America on the art house circuit before that disappeared in the birth of VHS. But the major criticism is Truffaut is not showing the cruelty that children are capable of exhibiting themselves. Where does that cruelty come in? This is a sunny movie. There are things that happen in this movie that you might say, oh, come on now. But Truffaut, as part of these vignettes, he did a lot of research and found news articles of things that had happened to children, and probably the one incident that everybody remembers from this movie. I'm not gonna explain it, but it revolves around a baby, and they say, that couldn't possibly happen. This is just magical realism. But Truffaut said, no, this event actually did happen, and a couple of the other events in the film as well. He got from news articles, but also from his own. There's a couple of sketches in the film that are from his own life. So even though overall it is a sunny movie, there is the seemingly abused child living on the street who doesn't seem to belong to anybody we don't see. We see a shack, we don't see what kind of parents he might have, even though we do see the parents who are largely not privy to the sense that the children have about their own lives. As again, we're basically spectators. So as far as the reviews go that you can find online, Roger Ebert gave it 4 stars, and you can also find a great article from the New York Times in 2002 if you look on if you Google Wes Anderson New York Times small change, because in 2002 he is asked, as the New York Times was doing back in that era, they were asking filmmakers to talk about a film that really influenced them, and Wes Anderson chose Small Change. And it's a great article. I mean, it's really worth reading, and the influence and his love of the film. So this is a great adventure. When I do deeper explorations of filmmakers, actors, writers. I always find it far more fascinating and more educational, but also more satisfying. So, Small Change, a movie that I very much liked in 1976. I hadn't seen it since. I liked it again. So the next two up are The Man Who Loved Women and The Green Room. Okay, thanks a lot for everybody who managed to listen. I do appreciate it. Comments are always welcome. Take care.